The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. These guys can't go about like 3 seconds without saying a swear, so, listener discretion is advised.
I want to wear the boot on my head.
All right, Vermin Supreme.
Yes.
If Vermin Supreme were president right now, we'd be a lot better off.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD, and joining me is Kyle.
Lowski.
And also Matt is here.
I'm here. We're all here, and we're all under quarantine.
Yes, and the Red Menace is real. His name is Kyle, and he's over there.
Hi, Kyle.
Yo.
So this week we are going to be talking about DC's adaptation of Superman Red Son, their latest animated direct-to-DVD film, which adapts the Mark Millar, or Miller, however the fuck you want to pronounce it, 2003 comic. I have never read the original comic, so I have nothing to base it on other than me reading a plot synopsis on Wikipedia. But this is just an Elseworlds kind of story about hey, what if Superman crashed in Soviet Russia instead of America? It kind of goes from there. I think in terms of at least what DC's animated films they've been putting out, I think this is one of the more interesting ones they've done in a while. Because a lot of them have been pretty like standard, like Batman movies. So it's kind of nice to kind of get one of these kind of out there stories.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, I think I watched Justice League Dark. But aside from that, I hadn't watched a DC animated superhero thing in quite a long time. Like maybe I want to say Crisis on Two Earths or something like that. That was like way back when they were just starting things. It's been quite a while. But yeah, I've been meaning to like go and like rewatch a bunch of those because like I know they've adapted a bunch of like really iconic stuff like Killing Joke and Dark Knight and stuff. I just never got around to seeing it.
Yeah, they've done a few in the last couple of years. They did like the entirety of the death and rebirth of Superman, with all like the Supermen. They adapted the Batman Hush comic, which apparently the ending is completely different and people weren't big on it.
Well, apparently the ending in this is different as well, or not different. It's just that they cut it off before a certain point.
Right.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I was I was familiar with what Red Son was about, like back when it came out and stuff. I never read it myself. The thing that I was most familiar with was you'd see it occasionally, but it's the image of the Batman from this where he's like pointing to his hat and somebody replaced the speech bubble saying like it's okay to be sexually attracted to the hat. That's just or something like that. Like some dumb reaction.
I will say I like Batman's fuzzy hat in this.
Batman's design. I like Batman and Superman's like costume design in this. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I do think that the Soviet era adaptations of the costumes are nice. And honestly, my first, I'm sure I knew of like Red Son as a concept, but I think my first exposure to it is when they put him as skins in Injustice.
Right, I remember they had done that.
Yeah, they just gave everybody like Soviet costumes.
It's cool to see them in, because I can't remember. Was it called New Frontier, or it was another DC animated thing where it was like the superheroes and they were showing them in the time period they were like conceived in, like the 30s, 40s, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that was New Frontier.
Yeah. So I can't remember if I saw that one or not, but it's always interesting to see like in now to see them place these characters back, like sort of in their original time that they were like conceived and stuff, and to see, because like through the course of this movie we see like Superman I think in the 40s,
I think
the 50s.
I think this goes from the 40s to the 80s.
Yeah, it ends in the 80s.
Yeah,
but it's cool to see like them like progress it over time, because you see like how Batman sort of like grows, like you see his like origin in this, and like what he grows up to be, and then ultimately his death. And then like Superman's relationship with Wonder Woman and stuff, and like how that kind of progresses over time. It is cool to see like it go over like decades.
I also want to say I say like it as like I think it's funny that you see Superman age from a child to an adult, and then after that he doesn't age a day, but you see everyone else around him age.
Well, that seems to be pretty standard, though. I mean,
it's just funny that like he ages from a child to adult at a normal rate, and then over the course of like 40 years doesn't age at all.
Right.
Well, you and I have been talking here for a minute. Kyle, what are your kind of general thoughts on this movie?
I was bored out of my mind watching this.
Were you really?
It really was.
What are your specific gripes?
I don't know if it's a general fatigue of watching these DC movies, Marvel movies, whatever the fuck. It's just seeing them so much, it's like makes me not care about the characters. But I knew about this comic. I remember seeing action figures a long time ago. I even bought the comic as a Christmas gift to my brother, but I never read it myself. And yeah, I don't care.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I assume a bunch of people have been experiencing like superhero fatigue and stuff just from constant, product and stuff going out there from Warner Brothers and Disney now for DC and Marvel respectively. Me, personally, not me, because I'm way into that shit. Like, it's weird. I'm not like a big comic reader, like at least not for the superhero comics, but I do really like like the movies and the animations and stuff. So that's always been the way that I've kind of experienced it. So
yeah, same here.
But more on the Marvel side than the DC side. But yeah, so I haven't fallen to superhero fatigue so easily. Like, I'm still all in on on the MCU stuff and all that. But anyway, that's besides the point. I can kind of see, like, just from the outside looking in, like, the content of this, like, why it might bore somebody, because it is mostly dealing with like a bunch of, like, there is action in there, and of course, but most of it is like a lot of like sort of just like political stuff. I can see why that might not entertain like a lot of people,
which is weird, because I think that's part of the reason I like this, because I do think like the just like the post World War II era of America, I think is kind of fascinating, to learn about, and just kind of putting it in context of like, Superman is now the ruler of the Soviet Union, and is like very patiently like slowly conquering the world technically, because he like pulls in the Koreas and all that. And then you see like from the American side where Lex Luthor is like this super scientist and is working with the actual presidents to create all of these things to combat Soviet Superman. So it's interesting seeing these these historical figures in this time that's really not that far removed from where we are now, but put in a different context, because obviously like Soviet Superman exists in this world.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how they like recontextualize everything to fit the setting and like the time and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned before, like having what, I'm not sure if this is necessarily Bruce Wayne, but who ends up as Batman, his parents like dying in the gulags, like from Superman's inaction, or and that's why he was so focused on wanting to kill Superman. So he ends up like as the Batman. It's like this terrorist who
Dude,
really reminded me of
I love Psycho Terrorist Batman.
No, because he was. I swear to God. I swear to God, I think he at one point says blow it all up, and I was just like thinking, oh, like Mad Stan, like from Batman Beyond.
It's just funny because he's like, I just like how it shows that he's like a dick straight up. Because he's like, oh, you have 10 minutes to get out of this museum or it's gonna blow up, and then it immediately blows up. He's like, oh, I meant 10 seconds. It's like, damn, Batman's an asshole.
It's kind of like, did you ever watch any of the Half-Life like fan fiction Gmods where it's like,
no,
there's one that's called the Quarter Life Crisis where it's like, if you not give in to my demands, too late, and like, it's like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, to see like the recontextualization of stuff like the Batman thing, how so America makes their own Superman, and it's like this weird genetic project, and they keep on juicing him up, and like through getting juiced and like through battle damage, he ends up turning into like a bizarro Superman.
Yeah, more or less.
You know,
he's the Superior Man.
No, that was funny because when they said his name was Superior Man, I got like, I was thinking, have you ever seen that image online of like, there's always like the bootleg like superhero toys, and there's one of Superman like with the mullet, but it says Special Man. I was like, oh, they should have called him that. That'd have been great.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is kind of interesting seeing all this history stuff recontextualized with, you know, this different take on these superheroes. The one part I did think was maybe a bridge too far was trying to get the Green Lanterns in on it. I don't know, for some reason, they recover. Like I'm guessing they're trying to say like the UFO that crashed in Roswell was actually the Green Lantern ship.
Yeah.
And then Luthor is like, this will take decades to like re-engineer, and I'm like, what's a fucking Green Lantern ring? How are you gonna re-engineer a Green Lantern ring?
Hey, he found a way.
He found a way, but he did, and they basically turned the Air Force into the Green Lanterns.
It was fun to still see like not just Hal Jordan, but like Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner are all there too.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much all the lanterns you're familiar with are in there somewhere.
But that fight scene was pretty cool, just to have them all like, like they were showing up on the radar, and they're like, oh, those aren't missiles, and it's like the fucking Green Lantern, and they're all like their bomber jackets, and like when they're fighting Superman, they're doing like all the typical like, you know, turrets and like missiles shit, like, you know, playing with, like, that was pretty neat to see.
I don't know. It to me, like, it was kind of the scene was kind of fun, but it just felt like it was. I don't know if it's in the comic or not, but it kind of just felt like just kind of added in there for like, oh, here's this other thing in the DC universe that was affected by this different thing.
That's where I'm like, kind of just mentally check out, because it's just like, Superman's origin fits with Batman's origin, fits with Green Lantern's origin, fits with Bizarro. It's just a bunch of stuff that somehow took place at the same time, and just they fit it into this. And even though it's a reimagining, I'm just like,
well, I'm fine with, you know, Superman and Batman being tied the way they are in this, because it gives motivation to crazy nut job Batman, because of course he'd become a crazy terrorist because like he watched his parents die in a death camp and Superman didn't come and save them in time. So of course he hates Superman and wants to like find a way to fuck him over. I get that, but just like Wonder Woman was fine addition, but I felt like the Green Lanterns was just like, okay, I think this is too much.
Have the whole Justice League if you're not gonna have the Justice League and use them as that. That's just kind of like, get this reference, guys.
Yeah,
that's literally what all these are, though. Any thing is like literally look at this reference and like how it's different in this universe.
Right.
That's just where I'm like, all right, this is kind of dumb.
I mean, yeah, that's totally fair.
With this whole thing, why not put Aquaman in there? Why not be like, hey, we're working on a cyborg and it's a black man.
The fuck's Aquaman gonna do against Russian Superman?
I don't
you tell me.
Make a Russian Aquaman.
He's gonna summon the Kraken, man.
That'd
That's
be
what
pretty
he do.
Maybe he lives in vodka.
Kraken should have been
Who
in there.
knows?
Oh.
I
Well,
don't know that it's necessarily good for you.
well, so I haven't read the comic before, but I was reading like how the comic actually ends, and like we were saying, the movie version ends like just short of where the comic ends, and I kind of wish they would have gone with the nutso ending of the comic. Just like where Lex Luthor basically cures all diseases, and like that no one has any problems anymore. We have a one world government, and Lex Luthor lives for 1,000 years.
And then
then
billions of years in the future, his descendant sends a baby named Kal-El back into the past, and it turns out that Superman is actually the descendant of Lois and Luthor, and it just becomes a fucking paradox.
Yeah, so that is fucking bananas, and I kind of love how stupid and crazy it is, and I'm kind of sad that wasn't the ending of the movie.
Yeah, I think that would have been
like I think the movie, the way it ended, is fine, but it's like,
very pedestrian. Like, if you're gonna go all out with like this concept, like just go all out with it. Just fucking.
Also, did anyone else think that Brainiac's turn right at the last second there would seem kind of forced and out of nowhere?
Not necessarily.
I felt like the animation with the tentacles on his ship looked really crappy.
They did look a little off, yeah.
I'm just saying that like Brainiac shows up maybe twice. Like he shows up when Superman first reprograms him, and then like once again when he's all like, we should just go conquer America.
No, because he was showing up like here and there. Like I would say, as far as notable scenes with Brainiac, I'd put it like at a 4. Because there's the part where they have like the giant ship that shrinks Stalingrad.
Right.
There's the bit at the end with the fight and the self-destructing and all that. But then there's like scenes there in the middle where like it's the supposedly reprogrammed Brainiac like advising Superman and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like, I don't know. To me, it just seemed like, oh, by the way, Brainiac's the bad guy now.
Given what I know about Brainiac from the comics, it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility that he'd be doing like a slow burn sort of reintegration into, or integration to like, with humans and stuff, and just like, sort of like have this plan going on in the background. Like much like in the way that Luthor, like, is like, 12 steps in front of everybody else. Like,
I guess. I don't know.
The only thing I know about Brainiac is he wants a pair of pants.
All I want is pants. A decent pair of pants.
Solomon Grundy want pants too.
So this is a reference to an old Cartoon Network bump, but I have to bring up a friend of mine a long time ago when we were talking about that commercial. He basically pointed this out, and I can't ever like unsee it or unhear it. But Solomon Grundy is basically like undead Ron White.
He kind of is.
And just Solomon Grundy want pants too. Like
he just wants a decent pair of pants.
Super Friends is worth it just for that bump.
I miss like early Cartoon Network when they would just do stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
It's so like vanilla now.
Yeah. Learn how to have some fun, Turner. Entertainment.
Come on, man.
It's not as funny as having characters flossing now. That's kind of comedy these days.
I think we just got old, guys. Are we just old now?
No, I mean, I'd say that sort of humorous sensibilities are definitely different from the generation that. I mean, that's just how it is for any generation.
But can we say that flossing is objectively bad, or if it's just like the humor is just not for our age group now?
I think flossing is pretty funny when it's done like ironic. Well, I mean, no, because even in that instance, I don't know. I would have to say there'd have to be very meta ironic like
I don't think there's ever a time, even with irony, that flossing is okay.
Oh, that's why I'm not writing children's television.
Yeah. I'd be damned if I put flossing in my... If they're like, you put flossing in your show or we're canceling you, well, I'm going down with the ship.
They're just going to replace you as showrunner.
Damn.
They would hand you a big barrel of money and you would fucking take it.
You would floss while you took it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would too.
Don't,
and so would Kyle, maybe.
Yeah.
You presume how much dignity I have. But yeah, so I don't know. I think shut up. You don't know me. I don't know. I think I like this movie. Probably it's probably one of the better ones in a while. I like when DC does like these little kind of Elseworld stories that, you know, kind of puts their characters in a different context, a different time. Like they did the steampunk Batman story a couple years ago. Oh, they did
Gotham by Gaslight?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Shit.
And that was kind of cool from what I remember. I think we might have done a review on it. I don't remember. But yeah, I like this one. It was fun.
It was neat.
It was neat.
If you're a massive comic fan, definitely check it out. I'm sure if you're checking it out, you probably already read the book. I don't know that there's going to be tons of people out there that are just going to check it. Well, I don't know. I guess the premise is interesting enough that outsiders might, check it out.
Outsiders?
Fucking normies.
Well,
I guess if you want to get blunt with the term, yeah.
Oh. Well, on that note, well, guys, that's our review of Superman Red Son. Let us know in the comments what you thought about this, and if you think they should have went with the nutso ending as well. I hope everyone is doing okay with the virus out there, and we'll still be here making episodes because we all live miles, if not hundreds of miles apart. So we don't have to. We're already social distancing ourselves.
We'll be all right.
Yeah. Get ready to quarantine, everybody. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you all next time.
See you next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the show. Join our Discord to chat with us, and subscribe to our Patreon for some cool bonuses. Links are in the description. We'll see you next time.